Hi, I'm Ben. Today we're going to be doing some basic maintenance on the brakes. We're going to replace the pads. It's a super easy job you can do at home. The pads for this car were about 30 bucks and you can save a lot of money if you do it yourself. So first step here on this car, this is a Volkswagen Rabbit, we're going to take the slide pins out. That's what the caliper rides on. So in this one it's an Allen key. So you grab your socket and your ratchet, pull those out the back. Sometimes they get kind of rusty, so you might need to put a little bit more effort into it than I am. So we're going to pull these guys out and make sure they're clear. So pulls it right off like this. So on this car you've got a little hanger here, so pop that off, and then you're going to want to have a piece of wire handy just like this one. Coat hanger works great, so you can wrap that up, hang it up out of the way. You don't want to have your brake caliper hanging by this line. So here we've got the old brake pads. They're rusty and it wears down, and when it wears all the way down you start to get a squeal even when you're not on full brakes. So what we've got to replace these are brand new pads. You've got cleaner, better material, you've got a nice rust-free surface on it, and it'll just be better for braking in general. So these will slide on right into here. But because of the fact that this is thicker, we actually have to compress the piston in the caliper first, and for that we need to get our C-clamp out. We've already replaced the rotor. I'll show you what we were working with before. Most German cars come with a lug that bolts through the rotor. So when you've got that situation, you want to bolt them onto the hub to make it a lot easier to work on. Otherwise they're wobbling around and stuff. So it's a lot easier if you bolt one on. So this is the new rotor that we put on. Here's the old one that we took off. As you can see, rusty and pitted and gross. But you don't always have to replace rotors. Sometimes you can turn them. So you can see, kind of heavy, you can see the thickness on these are pretty close, but this one's really gross. If this was a thicker rotor, you could turn it so that it was true again. But we're not going to do that. I mean, it's a safety situation with brakes, so we're going to just do all new ones. So as we're putting this one on, in order to prevent some problems in the future, we're going to actually grease the hub that we're putting it on. So this nice thick high-temp brake and caliper grease goes right on here, prevents it from seizing to the hub. This stuff's good for up to 600 degrees Fahrenheit, so it'll be good to keep the brake and rotor from seizing together. It makes it easier to take it off in the future. And throw that bolt back in there. Next, we're going to push that piston back like we talked about before. The easiest way to do this is with a big C-clamp like this one. What you'll want to do is find a good spot on the caliper, put the ram on the caliper and down into the cup on the piston and tighten it down. The reason we're doing this is the new pads are thicker than the old pads. It'll bottom out just right there and you'll be able to back it off. All right, so while we're here, we'll grease these slide pins too, and in general keeps everything happier. So do that for this one. A lot of leftover at the end. Use that overflow. Put that one in there too. All right, so between the step here, greasing the pins, and putting the new pads on, be sure to clean your hands. You don't want to get that grease onto the new pads, otherwise your brakes won't work that great. This is the inside pad. We're going to throw a little grease right here on the back side. This is the one that contacts the piston. The reason we're doing that is because this reduces squeal, and something guys are doing these days. It's a fairly new practice. So you just slide that one right in place. The outside pad, we can just slap on like this. Now hold those together. Grab your caliper. And now we're going to slide this over the top. Now we're going to just tighten up these pins. We'll get our socket. Tighten those back up. Now that we've got these tightened down, we're going to revert to our torque wrench to get these tightened down to the proper spec. This is a really simple torque wrench. It's just a spring mounted on a wrench. It works every time. So put the old socket on, and we're going to torque it down to 30 foot-pounds. That's the spec that Volkswagen set for this car. You can ask your parts supplier or your dealer what the correct specification is. So here, just go, tighten on, and tighten it to 30 foot-pounds. Same with this one. Torque is basically how much twist you put on a bolt. You want it to clamp the right amount. You don't want to go too hard or too light. With too much, you might break the pin off. With too little, the pin might fall out. Both are bad. So to finish up, we've just got a couple more details to get to. We're going to put this grommet back on the mount, just like that. Make sure you pull this wire that was holding your caliper up out of the car. And then you've got these spring clips. They go in the caliper, and their job is to reduce the amount of brake chatter and squeal from the pads in here. So you just kind of sort those in. These fit differently for every car, so you kind of have to play with them. Remember how they came out. Now that we're done with this job, you can click on the comments and ask me any questions that you might have. We're also going to set up a Skype session so you can ask me questions there.